It's time for our final award.
The Bravery Award.
Okay, this is a bit different. Due to overwhelming local support and a truly inspirational story, we just have one winner. So please welcome Steve Phillip.
Steve lost his son Jordan to suicide in 2019, but since dedicating awareness through launching Jordan's Legacy, he now aims to help people who are struggling with their mental health.
Okay, so here's the video about Steve.
On December the 4th of 2019, I just worked with a client in the Midlands and got back into my car to drive back. And literally just as I put my phone into the holder on the dashboard, I got an incoming call from Jordan's girlfriend, Charlotte. I think I remember about the first 15 seconds as Charlotte, just in absolute distress, really, just kept saying over and over, I'm sorry. Jordan's killed himself. And even now, 3 years on, you know, I talk about this subject all the time. You just think about that moment in time and your world just unravels completely. Everything you ever thought you were going to do or be or achieve just goes right in that moment. I was so poorly educated about mental health. So I do what Dad does. I pick up the phone or we go for a beer and see how Jordan was. And of course, Jordan wouldn't open up and I wouldn't necessarily ask him probing questions because I didn't know what to ask and I didn't know what to look for. So consequently, I'd always come back and say, well, Jordan seems fine. And he had a huge number of friends and he was the guy that if they were struggling, he was the guy they go to. In fact, in lots of ways, many of them have said this, many of his friends have said this, Jordan was someone they aspired to be. Good-looking lad, own house, great job, you know, everything really that most people from the outside in would look at and go, yeah, I want to be like that person. But sadly, we now know that, you know, Jordan was struggling in ways many of us didn't comprehend at all. He wrote a suicide note to Charlotte, and he wrote one to ourselves as a family, and within that suicide note was, you know, him saying, this is, you know, what I have to do to show me a way out. I know from the work I do now that this is a very common state that people get to where they feel trapped in a situation or situations and just reach this utter sense of hopelessness. From almost within a matter of weeks, I shared my story very publicly and in a very raw way, everything we were going through. And that got quite a viral response globally. And almost since then, the outpouring from that led me on this journey to start engaging with others working in the suicide prevention and mental health space. I founded the Jordan Legacy back in March of 2020, so quite soon afterwards. I was very clear that I didn't want to be another kind of helpline, crisis helpline. I wanted to look at the practical solutions around suicide, and I recognised that there was work to be done in communities, work to be done in businesses and workplaces. It led me to start having meetings and conversations with the government and regularly meet with the Department of Health and Social Care. It led to us putting on events and talking with panels around different aspects of suicide prevention within the built environment, where buildings and bridges are constructed and future design of those to prevent suicide, and also the digital sector. And people would sign up for these online events in their hundreds. You know, it was not unusual to have 300, 400, 500 people or more. People would respond by saying how it had impacted them and how valuable it had been. For me, I didn't need the courage. It wasn't about courage at all. It was about being really clear of purpose, that I didn't want to have happen to other people what happened to Jordan. It does give me some comfort that I know I'm doing the right thing really now. You know, I can't bring Jordan back. I know I can't. It's a cliche, I know, but talking is really, really important.
I was on the radio this morning. Somebody phoned me up about 7:45 this morning on the radio and said, you're going to have to do something tonight because Steve doesn't think he deserves to be here. Do you now?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I've listened to everybody tonight, and people know I have a real issue with this brave word. It kind of, I felt I didn't really have a choice. Well, I did. A good friend said to me, "You've got a choice. You either sit on the sofa with a bottle now, or you get up and do something." And he kind of knew what I would do. But the whole issue around bravery and talking is so important. The work we do in mental health, I think we've got to be really careful with our language that we use sometimes. That if people feel they've got to be brave to speak up, is that going to prevent them from speaking up? And I think what's so important is we have to create the right environments where people feel safe enough to speak. They shouldn't have to feel brave to talk about their mental health. Our workplaces and our societies should allow that and facilitate that. And that's really what we've got to do if we're going to break the stigma and allow people to really talk and open up about what they're going through.
And it's given you a sense of purpose, what you do now?
I talk to many families now. I remember in the early days, I was talking to people who were further along the journey and they were helping me. I suddenly, kind of within a year, became that person that was helping others. And they, some of these families can't even get out of bed after something like this. And one of the things I say is if you can find some sense of purpose from this hellhole of a place that you're in, if you can find that, then you can get out and do something.
Thank you, Steve. Well done. And totally deserved winner. So stay with us because we're going to invite our other winners back on stage.